Welcome to Buzzing Along, my little van life channel. Now, if the thumbnail and the video title has brought you here, you're probably thinking about van life. And that's the theme for today's video. Living van life. What's stopping you? And maybe the reasons which are holding you back. Now, this video is aimed at people who are already thinking about maybe starting van life, but it could be interesting for any other viewers. Before I continue, if you're an existing subscriber or viewer, welcome back, Vampers. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Neil. So as I say, this video covers some of the things which might hold people back when considering van life. And I'm going to be looking at the different reasons which could be holding people back. Right, so let's get into it. When I was thinking about these reasons, I think I was like most people, and I thought the number one reason would be financial. But I don't think it is. I think the number one reason holding people back is fear. And that's probably one of the biggest stumbling blocks when people who are contemplating van life start thinking about it. And fear is one of the hardest things to overcome. So fear has many aspects when it comes to van life, I think. The biggest fear of the unknown. Will I be able to cope? Will I like it? Will the van be okay for me? Will I be able to find park-ups? What about water? Electric? And these are all legitimate fears. Until you actually start living van life, it's very difficult to overcome them fears. Quite a lot of these fears are unfounded. I mean, the van life community is very helpful. Lots of people will give you advice, point you in the right direction, tell you some of their park-ups, where you can get water, where's the best place for food, and all sorts of different hints which will help on your van life journey. And even though fear, in my mind at least, is one of the major things holding people back, it can be overcome. I think there's one more big fear, and it's probably the killer fear, and that is, have I done the right thing? So you spent all your money, you bought your camper van, either converted already or you converted it yourself, you give up your bricks and mortar, got rid of all your little bits, you've moved into the van. 2 months later, you realise van life isn't for you. And I think that's another real big fear for people. Now, a couple of suggestions I've got to overcome that. If you've never had a camper van before, then I suggest hiring one for at least 2 weeks. There's plenty of different companies who hire camper vans. There's a great website called Quirky Campers who also rent out their vans, and also that's a good place to look if you're looking to buy as well. Now, as I was saying, hire a camper van, 2 weeks, go off, try it out. Have a few more weeks. Hire again. This is only for these people who have never had a camper van. It's surprising how difficult it is to downsize from a flat or a house into a small metal box. And if you've never tried it before, you've definitely got to try it before you go any further. Now, the other thing about this fear is that at the end of the day, your life's not over. If it doesn't work out, you can always move back to bricks and mortar. I mean, fair enough, you might have spent a bit of money, but it's not the end of the world. You can actually move back. And I know quite a few van lifers who've made the transition from van life back to home life. I mean, although they've probably bought a bit of land and built something rather than going back into the general population. As I say, this fear, don't let it hold you back. Another one of my suggestions would be, once you've got your van ready and you're ready to move into it and start living full-time van life, if your finances allow it, don't give up your bricks and mortar. Give it a try first. I know quite a few people who've gone into van life, myself included, who kept their property on for the first 3 or 4 months. And so you start living van life full time. It's difficult to assess if you're going to like it. Will it suit you? So as I say, if you've got the finances available to keep your bricks and mortar, I would suggest keeping it for about 3 months. I think after 3 months you would be able to say to yourself, yes, van life's for me, or van life's not for you. I mean, you might have spent quite a bit of money on the van or time doing the conversion, but as I said earlier, it's not the end of the world, and you'll be able to sell your van quite easily, I would have thought, because there's always somebody new who's looking to take up full-time van life. So they're my two major suggestions to try and get over that fear of, did I make a mistake setting out on full-time van life? Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my assumptions that fear is the #1 stumbling block when thinking about van life. I'd love to hear what you think. In the comments, please. And another stumbling block holding people back from doing van life, like I said earlier in the video, is the financial implications of doing van life. Now, not everybody has a big pot of money to buy a van and go off. I mean, I think the people who have that sort of money, 85,000, 90,000 pounds for a camper van, or maybe 110,000, 120,000 for a motorhome, are probably not the type of people who are contemplating van life. I can't sugarcoat the financial implications of starting out in van life. It's going to cost some money. However, there's loads of different ways of doing it. If you don't have a lot of money, you can still do it on the cheap. I think one of the main considerations when contemplating van life is to take your time to look for the right van for you. I think one of the number one things for me was always going to be I had to be able to stand up in the van. I've been in a couple of Volkswagens, campers, where you can't stand up, and that was definitely not going to be for me. Now the cheapest option really I think is self-conversion. You buy a donor van and you do the conversion yourself. That has cost implications as well. You have to really look for quite a while to find a good van. I mean, you can buy a donor van and take it to one of these camper conversion companies and get them to do it for you, but that's going to cost you quite a bit of money. And as I say, the cheapest option is a self-conversion. And if the thought of a self-conversion seems daunting, it's not actually that difficult. You can find lots of help on the internet, YouTube especially. You'll find instructions for doing near enough every job in a conversion of a van to a camper van. So don't feel daunted by that. Now my van, I spent about 34,000 in total buying the vehicle and doing the conversion over a 9-month period. However, I've met people who paid £2,000 for a van and spent £1,000 converting it. So there is cheap ways of doing this. I mean, buying a van, second-hand van, yeah, you might find one sounds fantastic, and you might need to spend a lot of money on the engine. So that's the key when looking for a van. Look for one which has got a good service history and it's going to last you. What you don't need is, after buying the van, having to spend maybe the same amount again making sure it's mechanically sound. You might find one with rust. Rust can be treated as long as it's not too bad. Now, one of the main things about doing a conversion is you can take it in stages. I spent quite a lot of money on the electrics in my van, but nowadays you can just buy a power bank and that will supply you electric. It's become cheaper. It's still going to cost you money, but not quite as much. It all depends on you. How comfortable do you want to be? I think the main things is a form of electric, some form of heating, especially in England, and some way of carrying water. Now, all these three things, as I say, can be obtained for not a lot of money. I mean, you can pick up the power banks now for about £500. A diesel heater, the Chinese ones, probably £100. And a couple of 5-litre containers for water, maybe £10. The only other thing you need is a bed, or at least a mattress to sleep on. So don't let the financial implications hold you back. There's ways and means of getting into van life without breaking the bank. Not everybody has the money straight away to start off in van life. But if you've started thinking about maybe you want to take up this alternative way of living and you're in a job, you can start to save some money. Once you've got enough to buy your donor van, then you have to think about how much you're going to spend on the inside. As I mentioned, 34,000 for my van, and because I've done it myself, it was cheaper than actually taking it to a van conversion specialist. But I still spent quite a bit of money, and I was lucky enough to pull some money from a pension pot to enable me to do the van. Not everybody's in that situation, but there is ways and means of getting over these financial problems. Don't let it hold you back of following your dream. Another side to the financial implications of van life is, how do you fund van life? I mean, if you're lucky enough to retire early and take a private pension, that's one way of funding it. Or if you're like me, you have to do a bit of part-time work in order to fund my lifestyle. I've got a little bit of money coming through from a pension as well. Those two things combined enables me to live van life. I think one little word of caution is that people who do van life on YouTube are not all getting lots of money from YouTube. Out of probably 100, 200, maybe 10 make some money, enough to finance their van life. But majority of us are never going to get to that stage. Don't look at YouTube as a way of funding van life lifestyle. You're going to have other funding streams. And as I say, part-time work is one, pension if you're lucky. I know quite a few people who actually live in their vans, they're working full-time. They're just living an alternative lifestyle which they like, and working helps fund that. So as I say, that's another aspect which may be holding you back. How are you going to survive once you move into your van? But there's ways and means around that as well. I think the financial aspect is probably the second biggest stumbling block when people are contemplating van life. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments. Now, I think the final stumbling block holding you back from taking up van life are categorised as family. This includes family and friends. But you might be thinking, I'd love to do van life, I have to wait until the children grow up. Well, that's not really the case. If you look on YouTube, you'll find a few families living full-time in their camper vans, motorhomes, converted lorries, and homeschooling their children. So really, that's not a barrier, if you think about it. However, the camper conversion or the camper van you would need would probably have to be a bit bigger if you're going to take the children with you, and it's probably going to cost a bit more money. But it is doable. Rather than waiting until your children are grown up and left home and then doing the dream, you can have the dream now. It is possible. I mean, I know of a couple who just haven't had a new baby and living in a camper van. They've had to make some adjustments, but they're not giving up their lifestyle. So that's not really a barrier. If you really want to do it, you can do it with the children. Another aspect of that is friends. You might have friends who live close by to you in your house or flat, friends from work, or friends dotted around. Moving into van life doesn't stop you from seeing your friends. And indeed, you'll make some new friends in the van life community. But it could be that family and friends are poo-pooing any idea you have of moving into a van to live full time. They might be trying to talk you out of it. They bring up all these obstacles which you might need to overcome. And if you keep listening to them, you'll never make the move. So really, if you have the dream to live full-time van life, don't let anything stop you. Fear, the financial side, or family. If you want to chase that dream, make it happen. So this is my take on what's stopping you from living van life. And some of the obstacles, or perceived obstacles, which are stopping you from moving forward. Now, if you agree with anything I've said, let me know in the comments. And if you found it interesting, informative, or you just like me, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, please subscribe to help my little channel grow. So until the next time, bye for now.